to 11 slides, right? But that's not to mean that you need all the 8 to 11 slides. There are things that are very important before you do that and before you come in to do this. And the first thing being, before you come in and craft this pitch deck, you need to understand who exactly is your audience. Some of these audiences could either be judges. Like I think on the 20th, you'll be presenting in front of a judge. You may also have target audience who could be your consumers. So if you're dealing with judges, you need to understand, if I'm pitching in front of a judge audience, what exactly are the expectations? What's their background? So that when I'm crafting something, am I crafting it in a way that they will understand what it is that I'm selling or not, right? So you need to understand you need to research the backgrounds of your hackathon judges if you're getting into a hackathon, and just practice on it. So obviously that's a very strategic move. You'd also need to understand the expertise, the experiences, and their past evaluations. How do they rate founders who pitch something similar to what it is that you're doing? And then once you do that, you need to tailor your pitch to resonate with that theme. For instance, I don't know what the theme of your hackathon is. You could find that there's a theme around climate change, there's a theme about healthcare, there's a theme about this. Make sure that however you do it, that it resonates to that, right? So within this pitch deck, the first and foremost important thing you ought to know is every single solution has to start with a problem. So you find that, I'm trying to see if I can get into presentation mode. You find that whenever you're creating a startup solution, it always comes with a problem. And the problem is a pain point anyone is going through in the ecosystem, whether it's a customer, whether it's a user. A customer and a user are two completely different things, and and it needs not be a problem that you think that you're facing and the rest of the world is not facing. So the first thing in a pitch deck we always say is that make sure you have a problem and a problem statement, something very clear, concise, and to the point, that this is a problem that you're facing. And it needs to be very well articulated, right? Normally what you say is a problem well stated is a problem well solved. So a problem statement needs to be just one liner. Don't come in and make your pitch deck so long. I want to actually give a good example of the Airbnb first pitch deck that they ever did. This was a problem statement that they had. Can everyone see this?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So if you look at this, they had 3 different problems that they wanted to solve. One is the price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. So price was the most important thing, and you can see they highlighted. The second problem was hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture. So clearly, you're looking at connectivity, community. This is a time when the world is trying to come together. And the third one is there's no easy way exists to book a room with a local or become a host, right? So when you read these statements, are they clear to you? Do they make sense? Is it a problem that you think you're facing in your own community? You can always give me feedback. Does any of this problem, is any of this problem non-existent?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you. So what you always need to do is always articulate a problem in a way that people will understand. It can just be one liner. It could be you're dealing with only one problem. You could be dealing with 2, or you could be dealing with 3. I always talk about the rule of 3. Don't give me more than 3. At any given point in time, never give me more than 3. Why? Because after the third, you've now started losing people. 1 is good, 2 is good, 3, it's always perfect. Yeah. Then if you've given me a problem, you've described it to me in a way that me as a consumer, or me as a customer, or me as a user, I'm actually facing it. And this is something that needs to be addressed. But not just addressed, it needs to be addressed now, right? And having given me the problem, then the next thing you have to do is give me a solution. And a solution has to match the problem, right? So all the products, the tech you're creating, the ideas you're coming up with, if it doesn't correlate to the problem you're trying to solve, then you're losing it. You also need to demonstrate that there's value proposition, that me as an investor investor, me as a customer, if I'm enjoying your product, that I can extract value from it. You have to make it as easy to understand, similar to that of a problem, and easy to articulate, right? Then the most important thing, and this is where startups will come in and tell me, well, I'm creating a solution, but I'm afraid that somebody will come in and copy it. Well, if you're already afraid of replication, then you're not solving anything. So what we normally say is you need to make it difficult to replicate. If it is not, of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it, but this is the thing that makes it, what makes it you? Why is it that no one else will come see this and go create it tomorrow? Obviously, it's the kind of solution you're coming up with and also the team that you're working with. Going back to Airbnb, I want to now look at the solution. You remember the first problem they talked about what? Price was an issue. So they came back to the solution and then they said, well, we're giving you a web platform where users can rent out their space to host travels to save money when traveling, make money when hosting, and share culture, that's local connection to the city. Again, we're talking about saving money, making money, and sharing culture. Talking about hotels being interconnected, that's where the third solution about the sharing culture comes in. Not an easy way to exit to book, and price point, you've been able to make it easy, but at the same time I can make money from this, right? So your solution always has to match your problem. Where you're not matching it with a solution, then the question is, what have you come out to do? So yeah, so the first thing, as I said, is start with a problem, make sure that the solution matches the problem. Then I did mention something about unique value proposition. A unique value proposition is what makes you unique. And this needs to be either in the solution. You don't necessarily need a specific PowerPoint presentation for this. Yeah. But it could be in the kind of solution that you're making. And just make it as clear. I need to know what value am I getting. If you look at the Airbnb, the value, one of the value could be me as a consumer. I can actually make money from it because I'm hosting money. I'm hosting people and I'm making money. That's a value proposition. So with no value proposition, then you've lost. You've kind of somehow lost. Then having gone there, um, we'll then ask why now. Timing is everything. That's one of the things that we normally say. I'll give a good example. Who remembers back in the days when you used to have Google Lens? There is an innovation around Google Lens that had come up. Anyone who remembers that? Yeah. So at that point in time, Google Lens was going to be this revolutionary thing that was going to change the way we view the world, the way we carry gadgets, because you can see everything on your lenses and all that. And it made sense. It raised money, and it was expensive to at that point in time. But one of the things that it failed because it was not ready. It was not ready for that time. I think if today Google Lens was brought in the world we're talking about, when people have gotten to understand the metaverse and the AI and all that, there'll come a time when the world will be ready for that. But if you bring something when the time is not right, then you're failing. We normally talk about market fit, and we normally talk about so when we're talking about product market fit, it's all about is the product right for the market at that point in time. If it is not, then you're failing. So the part of that needs to be in the solution, right? You can put it as a separate slide, you don't have to, but you always have to emphasize. And it also goes with the trend with the
Hello, Wangechi. Just 1 second before you continue.
yeah.
Apologies for disrupting you, but some participants are mentioning that your slides are not moving.
What can you say now? Why now?
Yes,
Yeah, so that's the
that
slide
is.
that yes, that's the slide I mean.
Have you been switching between presentations?
Oh yes, okay. I see that.
Okay, I think that was a problem.
Okay, so you've not been able to see the slides
Uh,
from the okay, I
the
see.
Airbnb presentation, yes.
Apologies for that. Let me just do that in a bit.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
All right, apologies. I need to find a way of making sure that I'm getting the entire of it. But in the meantime, so I was talking about let me just recap a little bit in terms of the problem and the solution based on the Airbnb. So the main three problems that they stated was price is an important concern for customers. Hotels were disconnected from the city, and there was no easy way to book. And the solution that they met was this, right? And just looking at it, by the this is the first ever pitch deck ever prepared by Airbnb. It was 14 slides long. This is not the logo that Airbnb uses today. It's changed over time, but this is the slide deck that helped them raise the first funds, right? And they went straight to the problem, then to the solution, and without going back into that, is making sure that they match the solution to the problem that they were stating. So are we together so far?
Yes, perfectly so.
All right. So then allow me then just stick to I will use the Airbnb slide as I use my other deck just on the side. Then you can just have a look at it from this because it's more or less the same thing. So having looked at that, then the next thing I was talking about is the why now. And I'd say that timing is everything. So before uh, you could remember before Instagram. I don't know how many of you remember that we used to have Flickr before Instagram, and it just failed. We had Google Lenses before, and they failed. Before COVID, we used to have and before Zoom, there was I've forgotten the name of that web app that people was it Skype. You know, remember Skype?
Yes, it was Skype.
Yeah, and Skype. So Skype obviously came early, but it wasn't there when, and maybe probably did not also evolve during COVID time. So timing is everything. Sometimes you can be too early, sometimes you can be too late. So the examples I've given are for organizations that came in too early. There are those that also came in too late, right? And that's what you end up losing is you end up losing your fast mover advantage because a company came in, so what it is that you needed to do moved faster, better, easier, cheaper than you did. So obviously you lost that. And the most important thing when you're looking at the timing is the market. And so the next thing that you always have to do is you have to show that the market is ready. Is the market ready? So market validation will validate whether you have enough numbers and whether the market is ready for that and whether the timing is right. Case in point, during Airbnb, by the time they were putting it together, there was couch surfing, and then there was Craigslist. Anyone remember any of this? I don't know. Well, I do remember. I did use couch surfing. That should tell you how old I am. Quite old. But yeah. So one of the things you do with market validation is you have to prove that the market exists at this point in time, right? Why? I'll say most of the time when you're pitching, you always jump to say that we have no competition, no one else is doing it. The worst thing you can ever do is say that. Because what you're telling an investor is why should they invest in you? For a market they don't know whether it exists or not. It's actually better to have competition than not have competition at all, right? So market validation is that which shows you that there are people in the space doing something, the timing is right, the market is right. So if you come with something easier, better, faster, cheaper, then you will have a market for that. And how do you prove you have a market for that? Is the other most important slide is normally the market size. So the first most important slide I said problem, the second one solution, and the third one is market size. Right? Not to mean that market validation is not important, but market slide. So under the market slide, we talk about the term, sum, and sum. Term is total available market. That one is a world looking view. It could, and then you go for the serviceable available market. That's a bit of a narrower. And then out of this serviceable available market, how much is an actual, it's normally a serviceable obtainable market. They use at that point in time they were talking about share of market, but it's obtainable market. This means I'll give a good example. So I'm coming up with a solution to, let's say, sell books in absorb books. And so if I start with Nairobi, Nairobi has 50, let's say Nairobi, Kenya alone has 56 million people. Out of these 50 million people, Nairobi itself has 10 million as an example. But out of these 10, only 10% of these people, I can only approach 10% of these people, and these people have technology and all that. So what's the 10% of 10 million? 100,000. So you start with 52 being the total available market. The total available market in Nairobi is 56. But then the serviceable available market, so the market I'm looking to service would be the market in Nairobi, which has computers and all that. But in natural sense, out of that, only 10% of them would be willing to spend at this point in time. So that's how you go breaking it down with big to small, from global to what's available to what you can actually obtain. Are we together so far?
Yes, we are.
So when you're doing this is the order you look at, you do it. Some people will come up with a very complex, beautiful ways of doing it. You can put it as a pie, a circle inside and circle inside another circle, that's fine. Or you can put it in this kind of order. Point is, it can start big, it can start from large to small, small to large, but this is how this order should look like. You start with one, going to the next, going to the next, and then you define each and every one. And then you come back, because when I come in, I'll be looking at the 84 million people if I was looking at the Airbnb, being the kind of market that I'm looking at getting right now, which is maybe a 15% of the available market, right? But what you're telling me is if I make some improvements beyond, by the time I'm going to Series A, Series B, then I can actually attain a bigger market. All right. Having jumped from that is you then go to this, you can go to the solution at this point in time, and you can do so in a different one. But the demo, this is, I think for them, this was a demo page. We don't do the demo page at this point in time. The demo page is normally the last thing that we do at the very end. But yeah, you can come up with you can put in a product slide just for people to see. I will not emphasize much on this because I would be expecting a demo. I talked about an MVP. Then we talk about a business model. A business model is how you make money. How will you make money? I'll make money for a 10% commission on each single transaction. That's okay. So out of the 84 million that Airbnb was looking at, then each night is giving me this. So the 10% of this is $25. Then by the end of the year, I'm looking at this value. Yeah. So if I'm manufacturing cups, and for each cup I'm making a profit of 2 shillings, and I am making 1,000 cups, then how much am I making? It's around 2,000 shillings, yeah? So that's how you do it. And then if I make 10, 10 orders in a year, then times 10. So that is how you calculate the business model. Now, the biggest thing that founders do is they make this so complicated. You come up with one, oh, we're going to have commission, then subscription, then advertisement, then all this. That's bullshit. So choose that one. Come up with a clear, defined business model. I'm coming up with we're taking a commission, or we're taking subscription, or we're taking this and that. If you have to have more than one business model, make it two. Don't do too complex. Then after that, uh, this again is back to the market thing. So I'm not going to get into that because again, this is how you get into the market, whether through partnerships and all that. That's okay. You do competition. Now, I don't like the way they did their competition slides. Trying to see whether I have something with a better slide. But I don't like how they did their competition slide, and I'll tell you why. A good competition slide has an X and it has an X and Y. This almost has, and I'll share with you, Jamal. Allow me share with you something at the end of this session, then you can share with your team. So this is still good. People use it. And how this means is the way they've done this is the normal T version, where you can say on one side, you remember when I talked about the unique value proposition, affordability, availability online, and all that. So what they've done is for this, for Airbnb, you're both available online and you're affordable. That's Airbnb and hostels.com. The rest, they're maybe affordable but offline. The others down there are expensive offline, expensive online. However, they've done it. But if you did an X and Y, what you'd be doing, if you can see me demonstrating here, is on one side you'd have a list of people: couch surfing, Craigslist, bed and breakfast, Airbnb, da da da. Then you have the list of things. Are they available online? You do an X for everything that they don't have and a tick for everything they have. It's much more easier and cleaner way. But one of the things I will say is never shy away from competition. Whenever you come in and say that you do not have competition, you've lost it. You can see here Airbnb clearly indicated. Yeah, on the line, it's only maybe us and hostels.com. However, we have a better team that can that can execute better, right? And so having done that, they came up with a competitive advantage, which if you were doing the X and Y, you'd not have done a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage being we're fast in the market, we are host incentive, we are easy to use and all that. So you have to come back and ask yourself in your produce, whatever it is that I'm doing, what is it that I'm good at? Am I cheap? Am I faster? Am I easier? Am I better? Am I do I have is something more durable? What exactly is it that differentiates you from all these competitors you have? So you have to have that. And finally, you have to have a strong team. People take the team slide so casually, literally so casually. And being a first time founder, the first thing that investors invest in is not your idea, it's your team. Let not anyone ever lie to you that they invest in your idea. They invest in your team. If you have a poor team, then they won't invest, because no matter how good your idea is, you guys will not have the right team to execute it. So they would rather move on to someone else who can, and then they make them money faster. As you can see, you can look at it. Joe Gibbia, for instance, was their head of, he was the CTO for Airbnb when they began. He was a serial entrepreneur. He understood how to create patterns, because you can see he's one. He understood how to do design. He was very good at graphic design and all that. Then he went to Brand, who was a CEO, right? Again, also understood design work and all that, but he's very good at business development. Probably didn't even have as high stakes as the person who held a patent before. And then you had Nathan, who you can clearly see is a serial founder who, and he's worked in organizations including Facebook. Then down there, they indicated that they have an advisor. So Michael Sibel, who was the advisor, was the head of Y Combinator. For those who don't know Y Combinator, please go back and check. He was the head of Y Combinator. It's a global biggest venture builder entities in the world. And he was the CEO at that point in time. Sorry, he was the CEO of Justin TV, went on to become the CEO of Y Combinator, but he was a well-respected person in the startup ecosystem. So which means when you're putting in a good advisor on your team, then someone will think, well, even though your team is not as credible, but you have the right people in advising you, then maybe you stand a chance, right? They went on to indicate press. Sometimes you don't always have press. They had user experience. Sometimes you don't have user experience. Where I mean, or testimonial. So where you don't have it, you move it, and finally, then you make your ask. What are we looking for? We are looking for a 12 months runway. And what we want with this money is to reach 80,000 transactions in an Airbnb. I'm looking for 2,000 shillings to help me do XYZ. You find people overcomplicating this. Or we're looking for $100,000 to hire, to check, to do this, to do that. All those things are too complex. I just need to make it easy. I'm looking for money to help me achieve something in the next 12 months. And then in the next 12 months, I will be raising. Investors want you to be raising and raising again. If you look at this, these guys are looking for 12 months runway to reach 800 transactions, and they have indicated we're looking for, if you're an angel investor, we're looking for 500K. It gives us 80,000 and we get revenue of 2 million. So when I look at that, then I'm happy to invest. Most of the time someone comes in and says, I'm looking for 100,000 to hire people. What am I getting in return? What will you get in this duration of time? So this is what makes anyone look at your pitch deck and think, So if I give you 500 and in 12 months you've made it 4 times, then why wouldn't I invest? If I give you 100,000 and you're giving it to me 200 or 300K, then why wouldn't I invest? In addition to that, you have a strong team, you have a strong competitive advantage, you have a good product, you understand your problem. So ideally, that is how a normal pitch deck or a good pitch deck would look like, right? But a pitch deck is not enough if you do not understand how to sell a story. Pitch decks are all about selling a story. All these you've seen there, whether it's in the form of testimonials and everything they've done, all this has been done in a way that gives a compelling story. Okay. And how do you give a compelling story? It has to be a story that you're passionate about, something that you resonate with you. It could be, in the case of Airbnb, they made it very clear. We went into a town, we are stranded, this is what we faced, and all that. And people came back and reflected and realized, guess what? We have also found ourselves in similar things, right? Then articulated it. Now, we're having sold them to the pain and to the problem that they were facing, they gave up with they then give them a solution and a way to make money. So pitching is all about storytelling. Pitching is all about selling. You could be pitching for investment. You could be pitching to sell something. You could be pitching to even convince someone to come and join your team. But it's a sales thing. It's already sales. Now, a good pitch deck, sorry, not a pitch deck. Now, I've given you a good pitch deck. Now, I want to go back to now a good pitch. A good pitch should never be anything more than 3 minutes. And I don't know, can anyone guess how many words 3 minutes gives you? Anyone guess? You can even put it on the comment section. 300. Thank you, VB. Anyone else? Anyone thinks it's more than 300 or less than 300? Thank you, Edna. So a good pitch deck. Oh wow. Okay. Some of them have gone quite low. Thank you. So a 3 minutes pitch is, or if you're having conversations, a verbal conversation for 3 minutes, you're talking about 390 words. So you can add them slightly a bit. Right now you can remove 10 of them, but that's 390 words. And that should be enough. Your 3 minutes should be enough for you to pitch and to do a demo. So you can pitch in 2 minutes and do a demo, which means you don't need to start reading everything. You need to make it flow like a story. That's my name is my name is Wangechi. And the kind of problem, however, I don't want to come in and explain to you how you do it, but the problem that we're trying to solve is XYZ. That those that goes into the problem we're trying to solve is XYZ, which I don't know, I don't feel it. Could be that I have Zeno. You can start with a question. Has any of you people encountered a challenge in trying to get a space to sleep in? If so, you're not alone. 20, 30 other people, or 20 other, 300 million other people have faced the same. Then you've gone into a market validation, right? And so what we found is this and this being the problem, we needed to come up with a solution. Why me? Why now? Why this team? So those questions must be answered all within 2 minutes. They don't have to flow the same way a pitch deck does. It doesn't have to follow this is not a science, it's an art. So after you're done, then you get into the demo. A demo should take you about a minute, nothing more than that. Yeah. So that's how you do your pitch. So why you do your pitch deck in 3 minutes is because after 3 minutes, if someone actually enjoyed it, they'll come back and want to listen to you for a longer pitch deck. Now, the longer pitch deck is 7 minutes. Now, you talk about data, you talk about the press, you talk about other things. Now, that's when you're having more of those questions that you needed to expound on your business model, right? So all that happens in your call after, but never on your initial presentation, because you've lost people. If you didn't start well, you've lost people, you've lost your audience, and you're all alone. Now, how do you make sure that you're working well towards this? The first thing is you have to repeat your story so many times before you even create a pitch deck. Create a story, let this flow. Create a story, let it flow, and make sure that it's within that window of time. Then create a pitch deck. Then once you've created a pitch deck, make sure that the pitch deck itself is beautiful. It's aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. Don't go using the same templates that you find on PowerPoint presentations. We know them. Come up and create something nice. Let it flow. Get nice graphics. Create it. You can even create from a white canvas online, right? Then once you've done that, go back and repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat until you get it right. And then now you'll be ready for the questions. You'll be ready for anything else. So allow me ask any questions from this. Anyone with a question?
Uh, if you have any question, you can unmute and ask the question. Alternatively, you can just type your question in the chat box. Uh, to the rest of the audience, as our members think of questions, just for the benefit of the members who've just joined, we have been uh, discussing how to create a nice pitch deck with presenter Ms. Wangechi Wahome. She introduced herself earlier. She's a lawyer and founder and CEO of Anza Village, one of our partners. It's a startup innovation uh, hub for any of you who would be looking to engage her. That is a brief profile. Uh, any questions from the audience?
Yes, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
My question is, for if whatever you're coming up with, if your innovation is, for example, a social enterprise, in such a way that, how do I put it, the people who are using your product, you're not necessarily making money from them, how do you still pitch? How do you still pitch that to your investors, seeing that to an extent it's not really generating income? Is it making sense?
It does. And what you talk about, that is impact investing. In fact, impact is investing is one of the biggest things that's going on right now. And unfortunately, most founders don't know how to go around impact investing. And it's okay. It's okay to come in and say that what it is that you're presenting is an impact item. However, even with impact investment doesn't mean that you're not looking for money. You could be looking for grants. You could be looking for partnerships, right? So how do you what instead of since you don't have a revenue model, you might still have a business model that don't necessarily make you money, but it could be that what you're trying to do is you're trying to make money from XYZ. If anything, by the way, a lot of this impact investment we're looking at right now is you still find organizations kind of still making some money, not profit. You make money, but you may not necessarily make profit. By that I mean, it could be that I'm coming up with a way of I'm trying to think of a recent impact one I've seen. I've seen one on gender violence and the likes, and they're saying, look, we want to come up with this way in which someone can come in and you alert the cops, you alert the hospital that someone has gone through some level of violence. So how do we approach it? You've innovated around that. The question is, how do you make money out of it as an organization? You're going to maybe look for partnership and and grants, uh, but it could be that you may use that as a platform for hospitals to advertise themselves and get you some money, right? You could also use it as a pathway for data collection, that you sell that data to a third party. Could be a data collection point. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to make money. It might mean that you make money in a different way than you ordinarily make. However, make it very clear that, look, we're looking at social impact investment at this point in time, and we're not looking, even though we probably may not be looking at equity, um, but grants for this path, and it happens. And if that's the path you're going, I'll give a good example of two events that happen around social impact investing. One of them is Sunculp, which will be happening in 2 months' time, I think, in a month's time, and we have pollinator impact. All those focus on social impact. So never be afraid to create a pitch deck around investment. Most of the times, you'll find some judges not understanding this, but it doesn't mean. And most of the time, what they're trying to get is, are you what innovation is there and how do you make money? But also, how do you make sure that you don't spend money that you don't necessarily have, right? I don't know whether that answers you, Wangari.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Please, could you repeat the thing that's occurring a month from now?
Sun cow. Let me just text the name. Sun cow. It's an event. That's the 11th edition.
Thank you.
That should be on Feb 28th or thereabout. And you can also check pollinator impact. All right. Any other question?
There's a question for you in the chat box. I don't
All
know
right.
if you can see it.
All right. Okay. Market size. I'll tell you what. Oh, this is one of the easiest. This is where people lie to the most. Just because I can come up and guess, but how you do it is you can go online and look at statistics. Look, for instance, let's say I'm selling internet in the country, and I'm looking at selling, giving away, selling it. You've seen, well, Elon Musk is coming into the country and he's bringing in some internet solutions around here. So how he'll be looking at is he needs to bring in internet to Kenya. So we look at why exactly did he narrow down to Kenya? He looks at Africa and looked at the number of Africans. I don't know what's the actual number at this point. Let's say it's 2 billion. So total um uh that's the total obtainable market. That's the term, the total addressable market, sorry. So he went in, looked at a big number, maybe 1 million or 2 million. Then he decided, look, out of these, where am I starting? Nairobi, Kenya. Looked at Kenya, now went down to 53, 56 million. Out of these 53, 56, then went down to saying, okay, out of these, how many actually use internet and how many can I address? 20,000. So then he got his own. So ideally, that's how you do it. There's never an easier way. It's easier when, if you look at the case of Airbnb, how they were able to get this is they went and looked at market validation. Couchsurfing already had the total users of this, and they had these kind of, and also the total users. If the US had 1 million people and they were able to get 660 million people, then that's looking at the market value, the market share being over 60%. So if I'm trying to get a portion of this, if I'm trying to get 10% of this, then the market has already been clearly defined for me. So I hope that helps. Then there's a question. So let me know if I answer your question wrong. If I wasn't so satisfactory, ask me further. Then using the example given for 500K to get to 2 million, what's in it for them? A share in the company or just profits? How do you decide the percentage of your company you would be offering? So so you need to ask yourself. So normally how we do is you're now asking me to do splitting of shares, right? So you need to value your company. If your company is making 2 million, if today your company is able to make $2 million from this money, but how much is it really worth? So we've had complexity in terms of how to value companies or how investors value. If you go to pre-seed, for instance, an investor will value the company at $3 million. That's at pre-seed, and that's for e-commerce and fintech. Different organizations will value them less. So if you're asking for, if it's valued for $3 million and you're asking for $300,000, then that's a 10% equity. So if you're asking for 500K, then maybe you're talking about 8%. So how you do it is you need to have a conversation with an investment advisor who should give you an idea. You can right now estimate. Most of the time precedes they talk about $3 million. So it's normally a good guess that you can start with. So if I'm asking for $100,000, then maybe I'm asking for you can look at that percentage. In agriculture, unfortunately, if you're innovating around agriculture, it's one of the least valued companies. So you can go online quickly and check what's the valuation, what's the current valuation of startups in the kind of area that you're investing in pre-seed, and then it can kind of give you an idea. I'll share with you a tool that we normally use. It's a tool that was shared by Antler, and it kind of helps you figure out that by pre-seed, this is a kind of value we start with for a company. Series A, Series B, Series C. So then that maybe can help you. The other thing that helps you decide how you value your company is the team that you have. The stronger the team, the more the value of your company. Before I come to Lydia, there's a question: how would you best convert this to a pitch in a social informal setting? You remember when I said you start with a story? You always start it with a story. Look, and make it flow. How you create it is start with that flow. This is a problem we are solving. This is a solution we have. Uh, and this is a problem we're solving. This is a solution we have. The market exists and it exists to this value. We have traction. If you've spoken to founders and you've validated, and you even have certain people, you can say, we even have traction. We have people who are ready to do that. And our team is strong. We have a team of 5 people. Two of them are tech. One of them is comms. Another one is a doctor. We have an engineer. And together we have a total experience value of 10 million, 10 years. And what we're looking for is 100,000 for 10% equity. And how we intend to do that is we will use this money to do this XYZ and raise to this extent. And if you give us, and that level of, I don't know whether that makes sense. So that's how you come in and do it. Never make it so complex. The same way you're having a pitch deck, it needs to flow as if it's a story. So always start with the story. Once the story makes sense, you come and translate it into a pitch deck, not the other way around. Lydia, you had a question as I wrap up?
Yeah. Under competitive age,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can you have like only two aspects of it? Can you have your company having
Yeah.
two aspects of the competitive age better,
Mm,
and then the other one
mm.
a bit worse than the rest, like than the other companies?
Then,
In the
then,
sense
then
that,
what? Then what
yeah,
makes you better? Then the real question
maybe
then
you
would be,
uh,
sorry, proceed.
you have two aspects, maybe market and
Mm,
cost, right?
mm, mm.
So those two you have
An edge.
an edge, and then there's one aspect that you don't. So do
Mm.
you mention it, Ama? How do you go about it?
Don't go broadcasting your weaknesses.
Okay.
My advice is focus on your strengths. If it
Mm,
comes up, you can say, look, this is something that we're working towards. I'm trying to look for a competitive market, for a competitive thing. Some of these slides, you find a lot of people doing so many slides. I'm trying to see if I can get an example of a competitive advantage that you can use. But my recommendation always is you don't need to rush into giving people your weaknesses and giving them reasons to not invest in you. There's no reason for that. Focus on that. Focus on your strength. Focus on what it is that makes you strong. If it comes up, you'll say, look, yes, this is something we're working towards. We understand that. We take it under advisement. And once this is sorted, or you could even say that this is one of the things that we're trying to fundraise to do, to match to this level. But as we do it, we have the right technical skill to do it better than our competitors. You get my point?
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
don't
that will not have any impact on the credibility. You'll
No,
just
it
be
will.
fine.
Just if someone asks you, own it. The worst you can do is lie. Always own
Yeah.
it and say yes. It actually is something that we are working towards. It's part of the things. And if you could actually even articulate it to the point that you're saying, yes, we're trying to fundraise to get it to this. Our latency speed is this, but if we get the money and we're able to improve something on our tech, then we'll be able to get this and actually get it at 2 times more, 2 times better, 2 times easier. So at that point in time, then you actually own it, as opposed to coming in and saying no. Because I've been in situations where I'm judging, and someone I can tell them whatever it is that you're trying to say. I know company that's doing better, and they say, yeah, no, that's not the case. And for sure, they do. The best you can do is that's true. This company is actually doing better, and that we understand. And of course, we're better in one aspect, and they're better. But one of the things it's on our roadmap that in the next 3 to 6 months we will be beating them and we'll be matching them and beating them. So then once it comes out that clearly, then you redeem yourself. All right, guys, I hope no other questions. I will share with you these slides. I will also share with you some resources that I have that I hope that you'll be using for towards that. And this will not be the end of me trying to support you. I have one more hand raised up. I hope that's the last one as I read this question. So you can go ahead and ask.
Yes, we can take just one more question and then.
Hi. Thank you for the informative session. I wanted to ask, in the process now whereby you're making a product and you just have the idea and you don't have the product, how
Mm.
do you figure out like the prices of each component of the product and how much labor it will cost to make the product? Um,
Yeah.
now that is, I don't know if that's
So how we
something.
do it is okay. I hear your question. So how we normally say, you remember when I talked about minimum viable product, MVP? The same thing applies for actual products. So an MVP operates for softwares. The opposite of an MVP for products is normally prototype. So what you do is you can create a prototype that can help you tabulate. And at that point in time, obviously a prototype might be easy, it's, costlier to produce initially, but it will help you estimate the cost of something. Because in any case, for you to get an industry designs or a patent, you'll still need a prototype. So having done that, then you can be able to estimate. The other alternative would be do a reverse engineer or do sort of like an engineering and map out the cost of everything. And remember to map out the cost of labor as well. So with that, then you can be able to see how many products are you trying to raise. If one product has cost me 1 million shillings to build, and I'm looking at doing 100 products, and that's 100 million. And then of course you have to calculate the cost of labor, the cost of marketing, and all that. You have to cost all that together. But how you can be able to cost that is maybe creating an MVP if you're in the software space, or a prototype if you're in the product space, and then calculate the price of each resource uh, and labor as well. So I hope that helps. Uh, I don't know, Mandip, is that fine?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. So for Moturi, the final question is you're asking how you can whether you're protected legally when you pitch. The answer is no. You will never be protected legally when you pitch in front of people. When you're preaching in front of an investor, most of the time you will go in and say, I would like to sign an NDA, which is good. However, I'll tell you what, most investors will not sign your NDA. And why is it? Because it's expected that you should have protected your idea. I like how whoever has responded from Afia, that's very correct. You need to check that you have protected it. Signing an NDA, some investors might, others won't. But how you become a sure bet if you're coming up with a product tool is actually file an IP protection. You can file whether it's a utility model or a patent. Have a patent pending and then go pitch. Have a utility design and then go pitch. Then you are sure that regardless of whether people sign an NDA or not, then you're not worried. Then have contract signed between you and your team members in terms of who owns the IP. And then disclose only that which you need to until you're fully protected. And I also said that whenever you're coming up with a product, you need to make sure that it's not easy to replicate or replicate as fast as you can. Remember that. And keep your confidential documents to yourself as much as you can. So I really hope that the session was good, and it will help you at least create something towards the hackathon. Myself and the rest of the team are here to support you throughout. In case of anything else, we'll happen to jump on a call. Yeah. So back to you, Keith.
Thank you, Wangechi. Wow, this has been a very informative session. Thank you to the participants for attending. Um, we got up to 70 at some point, so a clear indication of the interest that is present. If you'd like to be in touch with Wangechi, I think she will find out how we can be in touch with her for the individual members. But tomorrow, I believe, the team will be having a fireside chat with Mr. Tesh Mbabu, Market Force CEO. The poster was shared in the group, so you can sign up for it and attend it. It'll be in Hurlingham tomorrow evening, that is. Yes, thank you once again for coming. I think one last thing we can do is a kind request. Just open your camera for a second so that we can take a screenshot of all the participants. You can pause, you can smile, and we can call it a day. I will give you a countdown to open your cameras, seeing as some of you are very hesitant to do so. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, Wangari is saying stima imepotea. Okay, fair enough. For those who are able to do so, asante sana. Just some housekeeping before I let you go. We have our hackathon on 20th of January. The theme is to hack for health. We hope to see all of you there. The teams that we created have some amazing presentations. So see you then. This will mark the end of our session today. Have a good evening and thank you for attending.